The hosts and guests on Everything's Messy podcast are not licensed healthcare professionals. The discussions in our episodes are not personalized medical advice. Always consult a qualified healthcare provider for medical guidance. Never delay seeking professional medical advice or emergency assistance because of our podcast. We encourage consulting with a healthcare professional before making any significant health changes. By listening to our podcast, you agree to the disclaimer. Thank you for listening to Everything's Messy podcast. Hey, welcome to Everything's Messy podcast, where we celebrate the beautiful but messy life experiences that most, if not all, people go through. Get ready to embark on an exciting journey through the raw and unfiltered stories of everyday people. Here, we dive into messy realities of life, from making messy mistakes to triumphs and everything in between. Are you sensing a theme? That's right, it's messy. But this just isn't about the mess. It's about finding strength and resilience in the midst of it all. We'll explore how health, fitness, and wellness play a crucial role in navigating life's twists and very messy turns. And we'll challenge conventional systems, because sometimes the most unconventional paths lead to the greatest discoveries. Join us as we embrace the messy, beautiful, and endlessly fascinating stories. Each episode is a testament to the power of our messy journeys and the beauty that emerges from the mess. So grab your favorite beverage, coffee, sparkling water, whatever it may be, and prepare to be inspired. Are you ready? Let's get messy. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Everything's Messy podcast. I am your messy host, Sarah. Today is a really great treat, fun. I have the pleasure of having my own father here as a guest on my podcast today. Long time coming, a distinguished career as a police officer. Many exciting events has occurred as he was a police officer and then some. And I want to bring him on the show today to talk about mental toughness, mental grit, discipline, and how we get that. And I thought, what better way to kick that off than with my own dad? Here he is. Welcome, Dad. As to everyone else, Curtis Wilson.
Hi, Sarah. Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited. It's a long time coming. So as I said in the introduction, long distinguished career as a police officer with Los Angeles Police Department. There's, a lot of holes and gaps that you're going to have to fill in as you don't share a whole lot with me and the things that you've seen. But why don't you give us a brief, background of your distinguished career?
Okay, thank you. Started in 1975 with the Los Angeles Police Department and retired in 1999, so about 24 years there. Worked a variety of assignments, starting with Newton Street Patrol, which is still very near and dear to my heart, where I began. And that's probably where mental toughness started as far as the career, when you're actually starting on the street. So, but I went through the academy like everybody else, and they would teach mental toughness, can't give up, can't quit, combat wrestling, all those things that are challenging, but you don't dare quit.
And so we talked about that a little bit before we hit record. And I think people who go into that sort of profession, they don't know what to expect, but they do know that they can't quit, right? We're dealing with people's lives and things that are at stake that you just can't give up. But for the rest of us who are not in those kind of professions, what is one thing that you can give to people? I get it's don't quit, but that's such a blanket statement. What do they hold on to? What do they pull from?
Well, for me, it started in childhood. With Grandma and Grandpa wouldn't let me quit. They wouldn't let me give up. And I struggled with so many things as a young person and, teenager, and all throughout all those years. There are many times I wanted to quit. And they said, no, you can't quit. We don't quit. We don't give up. And they would make me go back and do whatever it was I wanted to quit until I got it correct.
And so for the people who maybe didn't have as tough parents as Grandma and Grandpa, what are they holding on to? Does it start with, a decision? Does it start with a beating, either mentally, physically, or otherwise? Does it start with circumstances that we just can't live with, and so we're going to keep going? What do you think that starts with?
Well, I'm glad they didn't beat me. That's a good start. But they made me realize early on that I was basically on my own. It's up to you to do this, to succeed, to get through whatever it was, the challenge, to get through it. They're not going to help, and nobody's coming. So you need to figure out how to get this done. And so that's kind of how I grew up.
Yeah.
And then
And
when
so,
you go to school, like junior high school, the teachers were the same way. If you got to stay after school, you stay after school. It didn't matter to them, but you're not going to quit. You have to turn in the work. On the football team, when I played football, I was not a star, was just on the team. And we had a big win on Friday night. And then right there in the locker room after the game, he goes, "What have you done for me lately?"
mm,
You can never live in that moment for very long because Monday was a new day, a new week. And it was the same in the police academy. Okay, did good today. What about tomorrow? And we're just the academy. I mean, it wasn't real. It was real in a sense, but they break the combat wrestling up when it was time. We're in the street. You're on your own,
mhm,
right to the finish.
yeah.
Well, you can't give up. I mean, something really bad is going to happen if you give up, whether to you or somebody else. So you were taught day one in the academy, we don't give up. If you gave up, you weren't there the next day. You were removed, at least in those days. The academy was a real challenge, and they removed quite a few guys because they couldn't do the work or wouldn't do the work. So they were gone.
But that's also why it's such a highly esteemed department to not only want to work for, but to have a career at, because they do demand, I would say demand, the best of you.
Yeah, they did. I always wanted to be a policeman, since early on. It's just something I wanted to do, maybe because I had two uncles that were policemen and a cousin. So I always idolized them. I wanted to be like them. And so started working hard as a young person to get to that point. The physical wasn't the problem. It was trying to get through the academic part of it.
True. But for some of us, the physical is the problem. I struggle with really wanting to push myself harder than my body allows. Did you ever feel like that? Did you ever want to do things physically that you just couldn't get to, or you just didn't have that issue?
Well, I didn't, I wouldn't let that overtake the pain or whatever it was. Whether you were wrestling or going on a run, all the stuff that you went through. Yeah, it hurt. It was painful sometimes, but I knew I couldn't quit because if I quit, they get rid of you. So that was always a motivator to stay in the fight.
Well, and we've touched on this podcast before. We talk about the difference between motivation and discipline. We talk about how to find that discipline. What does that look like for you? Would you say that today's youth are not being pushed enough in the sense of having to master not feeling the pain and keep moving forward?
Well, I don't think you can make a blanket statement about all kids.
Yeah.
Certainly some are coddled and some are not.
Yeah.
The ones that are not, that I know, they seem to do okay. They seem to move through life okay. The ones that are coddled or, given a lot of things, they're not used to working for stuff.
Yeah.
There's no motivation in their life to do that.
Yeah. Isn't it something like, obviously you found your purpose very early on, you knew what you wanted to do, but wouldn't you say a lot of what I see, in especially in the youth as we look to future generations, they don't know or have a purpose? They certainly don't know what it might be for them. Not all, like you said, but some, they're just sort of lost. Would you say that?
Yeah, there's some truth in that. But again, if you've got a kid that's focused, boy or girl, it doesn't matter. If they've got a direction and somebody's pushing him in that direction, they seem to reach the goal. And then you change the goal and you get them onto something else. You don't let them just stop because they reached the first goal. Life's a learning. I'm still learning.
Well, we hopefully never stop learning until we're all done, right? We don't ever want to stop.
Yeah. Until you go for your interview.
That's, we just, like you said, we don't want to stop. So as you weaved your way through your career, one of the things now that you're very passionate about is helping people that are a bit older to stay motivated to be fit. Why is that so important?
Well, because I think everybody can do better if they want to. It doesn't mean they have to be an Olympic track star, but they can do better if they're running or if it's weightlifting. Or when I went into the Kali, the martial arts, It's something I wanted to excel at. I wanted to be good at that, and it takes time. I say you got to do the reps, whatever it is. You got to put in the reps, whether that
Put in the
be
work.
more miles, more bench press, or Kali, hitting the bag, whatever it is. I'm not a natural at anything. So I have to really work at getting my skills to where I can be proficient at. And so that's kind of how I teach other people. You don't have to be a rock star,
Yeah.
play the guitar, but you got to learn the A chord, the C chord, the B chord, and somehow put them together. And I'm still learning that, and that's exciting for me.
Yeah.
It's a challenge, and I'm not going to give up.
Right. So, yeah, one of the things we like to say, it doesn't matter where you're at right now, physically, mentally, spiritually, or otherwise, you just have to start. Just show up to start, whatever that looks like, whether that's 10 minutes of walking a day, whether that's, setting a goal and getting to that goal and what those steps look like, whatever it looks like for you, like you just said, you don't have to be a rock star.
No, but you got to show up. You got to show up. I mean, every day we went to school, right? Seldom did we take. Well, you played hooky all the time, but seldom did we. I'm just.
No, wait a minute. That turned awfully quick.
You had to go to school. You had to go whatever your job was, and that's just how I was raised. You can't not go just
Sure.
because you don't want to go.
Sure.
So there were days were better than others, and there were days I didn't want to go to the academy because I knew it was going to be really hard. But I went. I showed up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
It's never as bad once you're there, right? We
no,
kind
and
of build
actually
it
it
up
gets
in our
better.
head.
It gets better
Yeah.
because you're doing it. When I run all the time, and where I live in these hills, they're not easy, and they don't get any easier. It's the same hill every day. It doesn't get any smaller or, less steep.
Sure.
So I have to make myself go out the door and go. And about
So
halfway through the
let's talk
run,
about
and
that for a minute.
I start to feel better.
Yeah, but let's talk about just that decision, that choice that you make every day going to run that mountain of a hill. I've seen this hill, Messy Warriors. This is a force to be reckoned with. He calls it like a hill, but it really isn't. It's a steep incline and it's never ending. And so what is it that's inside of you every day where you decide, I'm going to eat hills for breakfast. This is going to be one of them. What is it that keeps pushing? Because, especially being retired, and this isn't anything about being retired other than most people, when they become retired, they get to take it easy, so to speak. They can stop. And so you could very easily say, what do I got to run that hill for? What is the point? What makes you show up, put those shoes on, and get to the bottom of that hill and go up the hill? What is that?
Because I don't want to let the old man in.
Yeah.
I have some great friends. I love them, but they're in bad shape. And they decided once we were done working out. And so that takes an effect on everybody.
Yeah.
Even though I still work out, I get sore, I hurt. But I know if I quit or don't do it anymore, it gets harder. It's going to hurt more. So, I'm in it for the long run. So I keep running, or I keep lifting, or I keep doing, my Kali or whatever it is.
Sure.
I picked up the guitar because I didn't want to quit. I need to do something and focus on it. So,
Yeah, I often say on this podcast, if you don't make time for your wellness now, you'll definitely have to make time for your sickness later.
yeah,
And I think those are true, and you can apply that to almost everything across the line, because it is such, if you're not taking care of your body, if you're not taking care of your mind, if you're not, whatever your spiritual needs are, if you're not feeding any of this stuff, because it's all intertwined, you're going to have a much harder time at some point. So if you're not working on it now, you're going to be forced to work on it later.
yeah. And I think it's up to each person. Like the T-shirt says, "No one's coming."
Right.
And that's always before that T-shirt was ever made. That's how I was taught. I mean, look at this shirt here.
Yeah. Nobody cares. Work
Nobody
harder.
cares. Work harder. And that's kind of how I was raised.
Yeah.
Mom
Yeah.
and dad were going to help me. You do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's your job.
I remember being told that a time or two.
And it helped you.
It helped me. Sure. It did. So real quick then, break down to us what you think the difference is between motivation and discipline.
Oh God. You
It's an
need to
ongoing conversation we
well, you
have.
need to be
So
disciplined to be motivated.
Okay.
You have to start, like I got to go out the door to run. That's the discipline. The motivation comes while I'm running because now I got a mile in. It's like, I'm going to do 4 today because I feel better. So the motivation comes in. But if I don't get out the door under the discipline, I'm not going to be motivated. That's kind of how I look at it. So discipline first. Motivation is to get you to improve, to get to the next. I want to be better. But if you don't go out the door, you can't get better.
See, that's amazing because that's completely opposite of what most people say. Most people say the motivation that I've had the guests on my show, they've said the motivation starts you, right? You get excited about something. You buy your new running shoes, your new running outfit. Well, that's the motivation. The discipline is what makes you keep going back because you're showing up for yourself. But I love your twist on it, whereas you need the discipline first because you need to know your why. And I always say that you need to know why you're showing up. And then your motivation kicks in.
You go buy new shoes. Like I just bought some running shoes.
Yeah, I saw your old one.
I had about 800 miles on those shoes. So, but it was like, okay, I was motivated to go buy new shoes. I still have to have the discipline to go out and run it.
To use them. Yeah.
Yeah. Now I can look good, but if I don't run, not very well.
Yeah. Yeah. How many miles do you think on these new shoes? You think you'll go as many as you did last time?
Yeah, I hope so. They're expensive.
Yeah. They are.
Yeah, if I get 800 miles out of that's probably too much. I could have traded them in sooner.
I think so.
600 miles.
I'm going to have to start a GoFundMe page for your shoes. So, all right. Well, then switching a little bit, let's talk a few, if you don't mind. Give me one of your, challenges as a police officer, an incident where, this mental toughness, this grit showed up and you knew, obviously we're dealing with life and death, so it's a little bit different, but in what scenario that you can think of where it was like, I cannot quit right now as much as I want to, I cannot quit right now, whether it was other officers depending on you or civilians depending on you, what scenario can you give us?
Well, I think there's a few things that always stick out of my mind when I think about my time, with the police department. And again, back to Newton Street, the division that I did my probation in. I don't know if it was the first day, but within the first couple of days, and the car I worked for you guys listening, 13A75, was the project car in those days. And so that was the car I was assigned to. And I was the littlest guy in roll call. They had no midgets in it, just me. So cops were...
You think they did that on purpose?
I think
for yourself? Yeah.
Cops were big, burly guys. They were all tough. They'd all been proven. I hadn't been checked yet. So it wasn't planned like this, but whatever, second, third day, we got a call in the projects of a 415 man, which is disturbing the peace. Well, it turns out the guy was on PCP and he had attacked the mail carrier, the mailman. They still walked their beat, if you will. And the mail got all thrown around and the guy had a bloody nose when we got there. But the suspect was gone at the moment, and my partner, my training officer, took the mailman. They went across the little street in the projects to the office, the project office at the time. And so I'm out there, and then this guy shows up, the bad guy. And I hadn't seen a guy on PCP before. And he's walking right at me. I'm locked on. It's like, okay, here we go. This is going to be my first test. And he went right in me and we lit it up and we went up and we went down. We were rolled around on the ground. I got out and I kept thinking, can't quit. You got to get him. You got to get him. And so eventually I got him locked up. Somebody had gone and got my partner and told him, your little partner needs help out there. Because you didn't have radios. Once you left the car, there was no radio. Certainly you didn't have time to use a phone, but there was no mic lapel you could just talk into. So my concentration was to get him, and I had a little bit of wrestling experience, and I got him locked up, and I was able to subdue him about the time my partner came out. So that was really a big wake-up call. Excuse my French.
And it's one of those things where you hear often they tell you that the academy's great and all, but it does not prepare you for what's on the street.
No. And that's what those guys would say. Hey, you can forget all that shit. Excuse my French.
Yeah.
But I'm going to show you how to do it. And that's kind of how it was, at least in those days.
Yeah. So then let's talk about then after this incident happens and you've, you know, had the altercation, turned out okay, you were able to get him down. What made you go back? Because a lot of people might say at that point, hey, this isn't what I signed up for. I had no idea. Because like you said, everything in the academy goes out the door. None of that stuff matters. Now you're on the streets. What inside of you said, I'm going back tomorrow?
Well, I can't say I enjoyed the fight.
I didn't say you did.
But I did in the sense because I won. It was a victory. And so I kind of said, I can do this job. I had it turned out differently than maybe I don't know. But I mean, I got the guy. I said, dude, I'm all by myself. I had him cuffed when my partner got there. And I'm not going to say it was an easy fight because it wasn't, because we were up and down, rolled around. But I got him. And I realized, hey, I can do this.
Yeah.
And I wasn't afraid, but I realized this is some serious stuff out here. It's not the academy.
Yeah. Do you think in a way they coddled you in the academy?
No.
Okay.
Not then. And here's an example of that. It was a regular routine. You had this class and PT, then whatever firearm, it all went by schedule. And so I was not very good with the pencil. It was hard for me to spell. It was hard for me to read. So it was really challenging for me. And you had to take a spelling test, if you can believe that.
Oh man.
And the spelling test they could choose from 500 words and you had the list, right? There's only 50 words they're going to ask you, but you got to know how to spell 500. So I memorized 500 words.
Wow.
Because I knew I couldn't remember that. I couldn't spell because I had dyslexia. So I did it. I took them home. I memorized them. I don't know how much time they gave you, but I memorized them. Went in, I took the test. I was pretty sure I passed the test. And then I went to ask the instructor, I don't know, a couple of days later, hey, how did I do? Because I never heard from him. He goes, how did you do on what? I go, how did I do on my spelling test I gave to you? She says, Wilson, you didn't give me any spelling tests. So it's like, I really didn't know what to say. I'm sure it turned white because I know I spent nights staying up for several days to memorize these words. I won't tell you his name. I remember his name. He said, you didn't give me no test. He says, you got to take it again. So I was like,
oh man,
mofo, okay. So I said it again just for that night because he wanted me to take the next day. So I went back and I stayed up all night. I mean, all night. And went in it, took it the next day, and I passed. So I guess they couldn't get rid of me that way because I passed their.
Boy, they were trying though, I guess, huh? We're trying. We didn't get no test. My goodness. What you talk about the difficulties of the reading and writing, and I know, our family is no stranger to that and dealing with those kinds of things and those issues. What advice do you have for people who, may have dyslexia or struggle with that? Obviously you want to tell them don't quit, but what pushed you over that?
Well, because, I wasn't allowed to fail. My mom would say, you're not dumb. You just need to do this. And you need to work harder than other kids do, but you can do this. So I got that encouragement. So I kept trying. Until I could, whatever it was, I could pass. I could get through. So, but they try.
And that's that grit that we talk about. And so I'm always trying to, in your grandkids, I'm always trying to push them but I think it's, unfortunately in your time, they didn't have other ways. There wasn't, we know now there's more than one way to learn or work a problem. Even if you have to reverse engineer that problem, we now have the tools for my kids to be able to say, okay, I don't know how to learn it this way, but I can learn it this way and still be successful. You didn't have that.
They really didn't have that then, or not much anyways. And so I can remember the teacher said that I was just dumb. And then literally had a class called the dummy class.
I can't imagine grandma like that so much.
Well, grandma, grandma, I was like 5'1", but she would get mad. She would get riled. So the teacher said, I made a meeting. Mom had to come to school with me. And she basically just told the teacher, your son is just dumb. There's nothing we can do with it. Well, she went off on this teacher. She backed that teacher right out of the room and down the hall. So I was like, oh, good. Maybe I don't have to do this anymore. But then I had to just work that much harder because I didn't have no way to really help me.
Yeah.
Other than put you in the dummy class. And then you got no help. You just sat there for whatever the long length of the period was.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't get to do much.
Well, in that sense, I think we have changed for the better in that sense. Definitely.
I hope so.
Definitely. Yeah. I feel like there's a lot more resources and tools and things that we're aware about that we just weren't aware of back then.
But when you tell a kid from a like a teacher, somebody superior to you, and you tell the kid you're just dumb, well, that's labeling theory.
Sure.
That I've learned years later. And so for years, I'm just dumb. And that happens to a lot of kids, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Back then.
Yeah. That's I think that still happens today, unfortunately. But I feel like there are better, at least, tools and resources and things that we can get. But, children are so impressionable and they believe what you tell them. And so just that part right there, though, at some point in your life, you had to decide, no, I'm not. Or I guess that pushed you to just be that much better than what you could, that you could do and accomplish. Is that kind of how you took it?
Work that much harder at it.
Yeah.
Like everything that I've done, pretty much I had to work really hard at it. I had to put in the reps more than other guys did or other gals did because it didn't come easy. But I could do it, and I could prove to myself that I started to do things because I didn't quit.
Yeah. Well, some things I'm learning, some things I knew, but all in all, that's good. So getting a little more specific about your career, and maybe, your old buddies will be listening, but I'm curious as to what your thoughts are of the case that we briefly talked about, that happened at the Bob's Big Boy. Can you comment or say anything about that? I only remember what you would tell me and that the guy would say, "Get in the back, Jack." And he's now, trying to get out.
God, that was a long time. So I don't know, what year was that? 82, 81? A long time ago.
I don't know. Yeah.
I was a brand new guy in Metro. And then from Metro, I got loaned to RHD, which is Robbery Homicide Division. And I was the clue coordinator, which means you were a gopher, which is all I could do up there anyways. Those are all big-time detectives. So I run at clues for them, finding things. So enough clues came together that we identified a suspect.
Mm-hmm.
And then we identified the second suspect because there were two suspects. Actually, there were three. There was a female who worked at that Bob's Big Boy before, and she was part of this operation.
Oh, she was in on it. Oh, yeah. I didn't know that part.
Yeah. So now I'm there. Now the warrants are issued. Now I get assigned to go and take one of the guys down with the robbery homicide detectives, which we do. And the get in the back, Jack, was what they told the people, because there were 4 or 5 patrons still in the restaurant at the time. And this is like, I don't know, like midnight or something like that. And they were closing. And one of the waitress, how they lock the door after you leave. Mm-hmm. They're closed. So a guy went up to the door to go in to have coffee, midnight coffee. And the waitress opened the door and said, "No, we're closed. You can't come in now." So he goes, "Okay." So he turns around, and it's got the long ramp that goes to the parking lot. Mm-hmm. So he's walking down the ramp, and here come the 2 bad guys up the ramp. So he's our first good witness. He can identify these guys and why he wasn't allowed in the restaurant. So, timing is everything. And so, anyways, we had enough to go get the bad guys, if you will. And so I was on the team that went in and got got the main guy, and that was another challenge. That was a new thing for me. Go to take down a big time so-called bad guy.
Sure,
They
sure.
they killed 4 people, shot 5. They herded them up and they said, "Get in the back, Jack." And
Which
that's what
was like the refrigerator or
they
something
put
in the
them all in the
kitchen?
freezer, the walk-in freezer, and then they just gunned them. They just
And so wasn't part of the story, though, that because of the witnesses that were left in the front of the restaurant, they could identify his voice for saying what he said?
I think one witness survives,
Yeah.
and so I'm not sure, I don't remember exactly, but that was the quote, "Get in the back, this is a Jack."
Okay. Okay.
Um,
Oh, wow. That's one of the stories that I remember you being able to share with me. So many more that you wouldn't or couldn't share with me. I'm sure there's truth to both of that. What so as we sort of leave that part of it and come into this new part, this new chapter of what you're doing, you're on Instagram, your handle is Ready Go Defense. You are out there every single day. You don't miss a day. You are filming your exercises. You are encouraging people, and of all ages, but you're really trying to get a demographic of the people who should be doing it even though they might be retired or a little bit older. You're telling them, don't let the old man in, man or woman. This is something we need to work on. What is your drive? Every day you're out there, every day you're posting, every day you're, working your bow and arrow, trying to get better. We talked a little bit about, I'm getting into golf again, and golf is a great game, and it's a little bit physical, but it's not anything of you, doing the running, lifting the weights, doing your bow. What do you want these people to hear?
well, regardless of your age, you can do something besides sit on the couch, or use some excuse why you can't go outside. Because if you can walk, you can go outside. I mean, I think it goes back to I was never good enough. I'm going to keep learning. I'm going to get better. I'm going to learn how to do archery. I'm going to learn how to do jujitsu. I'm going to learn how to do the guitar. All those things are important to me because I'm improving. I'm going to accomplish this thing. I could have, yeah, just sat on the couch, I guess, but that's not me. I got to get up and I got to go. There's some days
Right,
I don't work out every single day. Most days,
right. But a lot of people would say, "Man, you're retired and you had a hell of a career. Take a break, take a nap." What do you say to that?
because it goes back to what have you done for me lately?
Yeah,
That's history. And I've always, ever since the football coach said that, the 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 guys at the academy instructors basically said the same thing. What have you done for me lately?
sure.
You know, Newton Patrol. What have you done for me lately? So you're never finished. There's always something else you should be doing.
So as we are talking about mental grip, though, I do want to touch on one thing, and that's not to take away the degree of the level that patrol is, but you decide that's not enough, and you pivot, or as I say on this show, shivot from patrol to a very distinguished part of the LAPD, known as SWAT, because patrol just wasn't enough for you. What was that in you that drove you to that?
That's just that I don't. It's just that inner drive. You got to do better. You got to get to the next level. I mean, Newton Street was hard to beat. South LA, that's tough to top that. Maybe 77th just because it's bigger, but Newton was
But
where was
you said, "Nah, hold my beer, watch this."
here. Well, and I went to the academy and got on the PT staff and was teaching physical fitness, self defense, which I enjoyed. But I wasn't going to stay there long. That was just to punch a ticket to get to Metro,
Hmm.
which is a citywide task force, if you will.
Right.
You know, the special forces of the LAPD had the
But
mounted.
not just Metro, because there's a few divisions within Metro. We're
Plus,
talking about the elite of the elite.
it had the canine,
All
it
right.
had the horses, it had uh, the scuba diving team, whatever it was in the Metro division. And then it had SWAT team. So that was the goal. I got to get to SWAT. That's the cat's pajamas right there. And so that was my goal. And it took me, what, a year or so, 2 years to get into SWAT.
Did you ever get frustrated during that time you're waiting to get there?
Well, you always get frustrated, but you keep doing the reps because you know it's going to come someday and you want to be ready. So I did that. And then once you get the SWAT, it's like, okay, now what? Well, I want to get to the top of the line here. So you start working there. But I don't think I was ever at the top of anything. I was in the middle. I could stay in the middle, but I was never the top guy. I could do a lot of things well, but not great. There was always the best shooter, the best rope guy. I could do them, but I couldn't do them as well as all those. But I could make a hand. I could do the job.
I think it is individual, but I also think that if, as determined as you were, I do think that if people really want it, they really want something, they're going to put their mind to it, and they might get knocked down. They might get knocked down, 99 times, but it's that next time they get back up. If it took them 100 tries, like you said, if you keep putting in the work, you could put in the rep, and something's going to come of that, right?
I think so. And it has. I pretty much got what I wanted to do, but I think I had to put in the reps. And it took longer than I thought for some things. You just keep going. Eventually, you get it. And it depends how bad you want it.
Well, definitely, as I know, being the oldest of four and kind of seeing and growing up with you and your career, I've seen the wear and tear, but I've seen the mental toughness, the determination, all the way till I can remember when you made sergeant. I can remember, all of these things in your career, big impact on myself, and having that mental toughness and that grit. And, I don't want to say it's unique. I feel like anybody can have it. It's just, what is driving you? What is your why? What is your purpose? Keep going for it, right?
Well, you always have to want it. If you don't want it and your why, it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
I can remember, what did they call it? I was a sergeant in Rampart, I think, and they had ride along day for your children. So I brought Sarah with me one day.
Yes.
I showed you MacArthur Park and everything that was going on at that time and the alleys around MacArthur Park, and would say, if you don't do well, this is where you could end up. You could be in this alley one day because it doesn't discriminate.
Yeah, that's true. It doesn't discriminate. That is the most true statement for sure. But yeah, and I think no matter what the past, having to be scared straight or having your parents, tell you don't quit, or even that inner voice, after you were told, here you're in the dummy class, we have to drown out the noise. We have to keep our eyes on the prize, or whatever that may be, and keep, as you like to say, keep hammering, because nobody's coming. Like you said, we all need to expect a self-rescue. We all need to be our own, what do you say? Just our own cheerleader. It's good to have support. It's good to have but you also have to have that mental toughness, that mental grit, and just the determination, for sure.
Yeah. And that's the discipline.
Yeah.
Even when you don't want to do it, you go out the door, and whatever it is you're going to do, you're going to run, you're going to walk. You don't have to run. You don't have to do sprints. You don't have to do Kali, but you have to do something. You have to do something to keep you aware, keep you moving. That's why that "don't let the old man in" is so important to.
Yeah, it is.
I slowed down. I can't run as fast as I used to, not even close.
Well, sure. But nor do you have to, but you keep running.
Not want to run.
You're putting in the miles like crazy. That's, your shoes are proof of that.
My granddaughter says I eat hills for breakfast.
That's what Reese says. Yes. Yes, she does. You eat hills for breakfast. Not sure about lunch and dinner, but definitely for breakfast, you're eating hills. So
But maybe that's my ego. I need to feed it, and that's how I feed it.
okay, so let's talk about that for a minute. I'm not sure, though, in this particular sense, or any sense other than when it starts to harm other people, that ego's such a bad thing. Maybe that ego is what is driving you, until it gets to the point where you're, hurting others to accomplish it, right?
Yeah.
If we're only in competition with ourselves, and that's our ego, that's us, saying, go, go, go. If we're only comparing us to ourselves, which is what we should be doing, then I think that ego's okay.
I think it is too. I think you need an ego. I think you have to be humble.
Sure.
And I think I'm pretty humble on a lot of things, but I have to have an ego to get there. So,
Yeah,
it
because I would say there's a difference between pride, right? We don't want to be too prideful. But if we've got that voice, that ego in our head saying, go, like you said, I showed up, I ran the first mile. Hey, this wasn't too hard. Now I can do the second mile, right? Yeah.
yeah, because when I think back, like in the academy, PT was pretty difficult, especially if you weren't in good shape. And I was in shape when I got there because I knew what was going to happen. Some guys weren't, and they didn't last, and it was hard for them to catch on because now they're trying to get in shape. The academy, just like the Marine Corps, they're tearing you down. That was the model.
Mhm.
They did. They tear you down first, and that's what they did to us. So and then you got to a point of fitness, and then you started to build back up.
Yeah.
But I remember going on those runs. It's like I don't want to go. Not another 3 miles, through Elysian Park. Talk about
Where all
hills.
the hills are.
They got some hills there.
All the hills. Yeah. Yeah. I remember it. I think, and we're covering a very big and important part in your career, but you've had a long, distinguished career as a Leo. But I think, LAPD, especially because of its reputation and the eliteness that it carries, I think is a big part of sort of what made you as the Leo. But real quick, what do you see the future as? We're talking about now they have drones and things like that that are in law enforcement. You're laughing. What do you how do you see that ending being?
I don't have a good answer to that because I never really worked with that kind of equipment. Yeah.
No, but as the future of law enforcement, are these tools that we should be depending on, or is it really
I
back
guess
down
they
to
can be kind
human
of
nature?
I guess it can be
And yeah,
depending on how they're being used.
yeah.
So, I mean, it's hard for me to answer. Uh-huh.
I
I'm
don't think for me, and I see, I saw the reports come out of Las Vegas where they were able to track down children that had gone missing within hours, and it was really, really successful. And that's great. To me, there's a part of law enforcement that requires that human instinct that I'm just not sure will come of the, AI and drones and things like that. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, that's probably pretty accurate. I know. Well, my partners that I had for years. We both kind of thought alike. Um, we knew you had to get out of the car. This is in the Metro days. Metro didn't just do special assignments; they did patrol. You'd go work Newton because Newton's out of control. You'd go work 77, and you'd have to figure out how to get the bad guys, and that was the fun part of the job. But we both knew you have to get out of the car to make good arrests, and we did a lot of work on foot, sneaking around, coming up, scaring the bejesus out of people because they didn't know we were there. Now, the drones could probably give you that same look, except you're not there yet. You still have to get. We would catch them right in the act of things, and that was the fun part of the job. That was the challenge.
Sure. But even in a sense of, the longest time we've heard the expression community policing and things like that, there are some things that when you're boots on the ground and you're actually making a relationship with neighbors, people that live in the, where the crime's happening, talking to people, I feel like that component is going to be missed when you're relying on computers to, I mean, yes, maybe it cuts down on time and what you need to do, but when you're in the neighborhoods, when you're in there talking to people, when you see how not only these people live, but how they have to live, what the stacks are against them, that really changes your perspective and how you approach something, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
but you want to help the good people.
right.
You
That's what
want
I'm
to catch the
saying.
bad guys, and you want to help the good people. And there were some really good people in Newton, but they were in Newton. That's where they were lived their whole
Sure,
life.
sure.
And so we would really try and help those people. They would give us information
Yeah,
that helped, but you had to know them first. They didn't just give it
right,
to you the first day. You had
right.
to develop a relationship. And so I was really blessed with the training officers because those guys have been there 10, 12 years on that same car.
Yeah,
They knew every person in that area. They knew the crooks. They knew their kids who became crooks. And so they knew how to find people.
And I think there's something that you can't put a computer in that. There's no way to, have those relationships and find information and talk to those people with a computer. I just don't see it.
I don't see it either, because there's no personal interaction.
That's what it is, personal interaction.
A drone you can put up over somebody's house. You can
Sure.
You can see when they leave, when they come home. But that's a little different. If you want to know your folks, you got to get out and meet them. You got to talk to them.
Yeah.
And that's what community policing, that started in the 70s, late 70s. I was a new guy on the job. They had team policing. They divided the divisions into sectors, and they were called teams. And you had your 3+1s, which is like a corporal plus one between a sergeant and a corporal. And those guys would develop relationships, meetings, like with the churches and the community.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
But when you're trying to find bad guys, you gotta get out.
You got to know the people. You got to know where to go. You got to know where to look. And I do think, a lot of times that's portrayed on television these days. When you look at police dramas and things like that, it's portrayed as they're in there in the neighborhoods trying to know these people. I think, whether they're mimicking what's actually happening in the field or what's going on, I just don't think you can reproduce that piece of it in any other way but having people on the ground talking to the people.
Yeah, I think so. And when you're, of course, this is now the old days, but when you're in those days that I was working, you kind of knew who the bad guys were. You want to catch them. And so you got to get set up. You can't just drive up to the front door, because they're going to run or rabbit on you.
Well, and they've got lookouts that are looking for you.
That was the fun. You had to work underneath their radar and get into position when they came running out, wherever, down the alley.
They're doing.
Yeah. Not expecting you to be there. And then waylay, and you get them.
And those good people were thankful for that.
Very thankful. And they would thank us. They might not thank us right that minute.
Yeah.
But they would come up the next time, hey, thanks for doing that.
Yeah.
Because it made their life easier.
Yeah. And that's what it's supposed to be about, right? You're there. I mean, the whole motto was to protect and to serve, and you were serving those people. And that's, I don't think you can do that in a drone. Again, I think maybe it saves time, but I hope we don't get away as we go into the future of policing. I hope we don't get away from that, because there's so much there, I feel.
Well, I think you got to know the people.
Yeah.
You have to. So even in a small town, the policemen that are working,
right,
they knew the handful of people that were causing all the trouble.
Yeah.
The same thing in the big city, only you got more numbers, but still it's only
same
a percentage of people causing all the trouble.
Like I had mentioned earlier, you are on Instagram under Ready Go Defense. If anybody is out there looking to start a program or want to see an example of somebody who is a little bit older and you want to see where to start, you want to go check him out, you want to see what he's doing, even if just to watch his bullseye when he's shooting his bows, that's pretty entertaining. So go check that out. Pop, I appreciate you coming on Everything's Messy. And
thank you so much for having me. It's been fun.
Yeah. We'll get messy another time. This is great.
Sounds great. All right. See you.
Thanks for listening to Everything's Messy podcast. Whew, if you made it this far, give yourself a gold star or at least a nap. Honestly, if you showed up today and you were listening, you've already crushed it. I'm so grateful for you listening. If anything hit home, share it, tag me, write it on a sticky note. I don't care. Just don't keep all of this messy goodness to yourself. You can find me on Instagram at Everything's Messy Wellness or over at my website, everythingsmessywellness.com, where I've got resources, coaching, and probably a new rant about blood sugar or something that's just nonsense. It's all waiting for you. Check out my YouTube channel. I've got all of my podcast episodes up there. And I'm on X at Everything's Mess. Or if you just want to send me an email, Sarah at everythingsmessywellness.com. Look, until next time, hydrate, take no crap, and as always, keep it messy.